With his take is comedian and host of the Adam Carolla podcast, Adam Carolla. All right, Adam, the left is really hoping that Tim Walz will read as a moderate. I think it's because he's old and white, and to that end, he looks moderate. But what do you think of the pick?
I think it's funny that they make proclamations and then try to distance themselves from their own proclamations, which is strange. Like, first off, Kamala Harris is 60 or about to turn 60. The stuff she said when she was in her mid 50s, 55, 56. Is there things you think people change their mind? Like they play it off like, oh, she was in college and everyone was doing it back then. She was in her mid 50s when she said all the things she's now trying to walk back. But the other question is if that's what you stand for, then why are you trying to distance yourself from it? Like if you look at anything I said, I don't like red turn arrows, and I want school choice, and I want lower taxes, and I want a secure border. I'm not going to distance myself from anything I've said over the last 30 years because I mean it.
He makes a good point there. What's that saying? You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, that makes a lot of sense considering that Kamala Harris is, an old dog. I'm joking. We're having fun here. It's video 3 of the day, and it's Friday night. And, I saw this, and I figured, hey, let's go ahead and check it out. And I'm looking forward to it. Adam Carolla is an old comedian. I know him I first discovered him from Loveline with Dr. Drew back when I was a teenager, and I don't see much of him anymore. And I was like, well, hey, let's give this one a shot. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully we enjoyed this one, but let's go ahead and get her going.
Well, I think she does mean it. I think it's her campaign that doesn't want her to talk about her radical record. But I'm not sure which is worse, Adam, because when she talks about her radical record, at least it makes sense. When she's just talking about God only knows what, it's a rambly mess about the passage of time and being unburdened by what has been and falling out of the coconut tree. And that's really all she's given us in the last 17 days since she was selected, not elected, as the nominee. She's just given us a whole lot of excitement, enthusiasm, laughing. I haven't really heard any policy positions from Kamala. Do you think that the mainstream media is going to be able to shield her all the way until early voting, making it acceptable for her not to answer really much of anything?
It is weird how unbothered we are as a nation, and especially the mainstream media, but just average human beings who just have this sort of conceit where they go, yeah, we'll just keep her away from microphones for another 86 days and maybe this thing will work. And it's like, that's your conceit? The person who's running for president of the United States of America, we can't get their opinions because if they spoke into a microphone, they would torpedo their own campaign.
Well, unfortunately, it worked for Biden back in 2020, so, why would they try anything new? What's that saying? You can't teach an old dog new tricks?
That's not bothersome. And by the way, news outlets, ABC and NBC and New York Times, you should be the most bothered by this because you collect news for a living. It's so weird when they run interference for their side and it's so blatantly obvious. It's also kind of pathetic and sad, but it's also why their brand, New York Times, CNN, like who would ever listen to anything they ever had to say ever again? But it's mostly the fact that there's 50% of the populace that like her, which is insane to me because it's basically like someone is saying, do a press conference. And she's saying, the time's not right. But it's basically the same as you got pulled over by a cop. The cop says, I think you've been drinking. Will you take a breathalyzer? And you say, no. And then they say, well, you've been driving drunk. And you go, no, I haven't. And then the press sides with you. It's a pretty simple equation. Take the breathalyzer if you've not been driving drunk. If you're smart and you're articulate and your ideas are great and America needs to hear them, then do some pressers.
Where do you think Joe Biden is? Ever since they led that coup on his candidacy and Nancy Pelosi, got in there, and got the knife right to the back of old Joe. We really haven't seen much of him. I think we saw him trying to board a plane that wasn't his last week, but other than that, we haven't really seen him. I mean, there's a lot going on, some fluctuations with the stock market. You've got Israel, which may be under attack any moment, any day now. We really haven't heard anything from Joe Biden. I don't think he's been leading the country for the last at least 2 years. But do you think it's interesting that everyone just suddenly doesn't care where Joe is or what he's doing or who might be in charge at this point?
Well, it's funny because they do things like the "Don't Say Gay" bill out of Florida, or the men who wrote the history books in Florida saying slavery was a good thing, or IDs for the black community or whatever. They get all exercised about everything, and then they just forget about it and walk away. Like Joe Biden's at the top of his game. No one's sharper. This guy's got 50 years experience, a steady leadership, and everything else. That's like, oh yeah, I guess we're done with him. I mean, I don't know what happened to "Don't Say Gay." What happened to everything they talk about all the time that they just turned the page on? Biden, my sort of personal take on Biden is it was a full-time job keeping him together, pieced together for the little he had to do. And now that they feel like he doesn't have to do anything anymore, he's just going, screw it. I'm eating ice cream in the basement. I'm not taking the B vitamin shots anymore. I'm not even going to try to put it together, because he's obviously on the decline. And he's sort of like an aging starlet who has to spend 2 hours in the makeup chair, another hour in hair, plastic surgeon, everything else. And at some point, they just decided to stop doing films. And they went, screw it. I'm letting my hair go gray. I'm not going to deal with the charade anymore. So I think he's just went, screw it. And because they don't have any dignity and they don't care, they just went like, okay, he's gone. I mean, they knew he was gone. We knew he was gone. And now that everyone knows he's gone, then they don't have to pedal the bike anymore. They had to pedal the bike really hard and lie for 2 years. I mean, that's a big calorie burner, telling everyone who clearly saw it that they didn't see what they saw. Cheap fakes, right?
And if you haven't heard about the cheap fake thing, here, let me show you an example from the White House press secretary.
There seems to be a sort of rash of videos that have been edited to make the president appear especially frail or mentally confused. I'm wondering if the White House is especially worried about the fact that this appears to be a pattern that we're seeing more often.
Yeah, and I think you all have called this the cheap fakes video, and that's exactly what they are. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith, and some of your news organization have been very clear, have stressed that these the right-wing critics of the president have a credibility problem because of the fact checkers have repeatedly caught them pushing misinformation, disinformation.
And that was a video of the White House press secretary pretty much covering up for Joe Biden before he backed out of the 2024 election, when he was caught on camera in all of his, elderly, senile moments. They were trying to act like they weren't real videos. She said cheap fakes instead of deep fakes. But okay, let's get back to it.
Oh, it's just him at the Juneteenth concert, standing around looking insane and defeated. So the news outlets and the White House and all their all their lieutenants go, we don't have to pedal this bike anymore, and they're taking a rest, and so is he. And I don't think we'll hear from him again.
Yeah, and they don't even try to corral him in when he's just, like I said, boarding planes that he's not meant to board, or just kind of wandering off, looking blankly. They don't even try to save him anymore. They really just leave him, and he might be fine with that. I don't know. Also, not seeing a whole lot of Jill. I think she went to Paris, maybe, but she was really front and center. I think she doesn't care about him anymore either. I mean, now that her meal ticket is slipping into the abyss, I don't think she really cares about him. I don't think she wants to spend the rest of her life taking care of him. I think that's why she so badly wanted him to stay in that position. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens to the guy. Last week, he was trying to tell us he wants to overhaul the Supreme Court. I think they're kind of done with that now, to your point. I don't think that they just really care anymore. And whatever he's going to do in the next few months, I mean, he can screw up a lot, but I don't think he's been in charge, so we're not going to see a big difference. But I want to talk to you about California, because one of my pleasures is watching you take on California Governor Gavin Newsom, somebody that I also just find completely disgusting and detestable. But, you know, now he's on his own vanity project. He's doing the podcast. He's doing the Politickin' pod, trying to make himself into a celebrity. He posts a lot of selfie videos on Twitter. And now he's really wanting to take us behind the scenes in like a TLC type reality show starring him. I want to take a look at this latest project and get your take on Gavin.
Today we're going into San Quentin to learn more about this place and what it's all about.
All the things that I've done as governor, the one thing I wasn't prepared for was this space.
I'm telling you, that's what I'm saying. Throw my name in there, fuck it, man. You
Beast Mode 2024.
Man, throw me in the office.
Hey, tell Doug how we know each other.
Really.
People are selling you fear and anxiety, and that's what this is about. And it's fueled by anger, and it's understandable because people want to be safe. But this has become a racket, and breaking up this racket is hard, and the opposition is real, and it's not about politics.
So I'm about
Democrats,
to say, you better be
Republicans.
careful, bro, because when you get to talking like that, stern and all that type of shit
man.
like there, my boy,
Get intense about
them
it.
motherfuckers, they be creeping and
I mean, what did we just watch there? Is that a TLC show? Is that like a new Ghost Hunters? I'm not entirely sure, but he sure loves himself.
And after what he did to California during the lockdowns, I'd like to see him maybe get used to those bars for a little while.
He likes to talk a lot. He just doesn't do anything. You know, when I had him on my podcast a decade ago, I grilled him on a few subjects. And a lot of people remember me talking to him about predatory check cashing places and him saying that the Black and Hispanic community in California, half of them didn't have access to checking accounts. I love the way they use the word access. Like everyone has access to a checking account. Some people choose not to start one, but either way. But what people forget is I also brought up the homeless situation to Gavin Newsom on my podcast. It was like 10 and a half, 11 years ago. And I said to him, crazy people and junkies, that's what comprises the homeless community. And he told me the real face of homeless was a mother of two who had a full-time job, who got divorced and was out on the street. And I was like, that was his take on who the populace of the homeless community was. It's all junkies. It's all people with schizophrenia and other mental disorders. So how would one even solve a problem if they couldn't identify what the problem was? There's something wrong with Gavin Newsom. I don't know how else to explain it to people. I've sat in the room with him. I've interviewed him. He goes in a circle. He can talk in a circle until the bearings burn up and the wheels come off. That's what he can do. And that's what he did with me. Now, he sounds like an imbecile when he does it, but he doesn't seem to mind that, because I think there's bad governors out there. I don't like Gretchen Whitmer, but I don't think she's a sociopath. He's a narcissist sociopath, and it's sort of insane. He's running California into the ground. It doesn't seem to bother him. It doesn't bother any of the people who voted for him. And it's very strange. Like, I hope one day people 100 years from now sort of step back and look at this, forget about politics, just this chapter in our history where you elect somebody, that person runs the state or the city into the ground, and then they get reelected. And we all just sort of stand back and watch.
And then just today, all of a sudden, Gavin Newsom is upset about the homelessness issue in California. Here, check this out.
Cities can do their part. You can apply for federal grants, but the state's unprecedented billions and billions of dollars support. I'm not interested in providing that support and not seeing the results. I'm a taxpayer, not just the governor. It's not complicated. We'll send that money to counties that are producing results.
It's almost like he's mad about something. I wonder what.
And I don't know what's next for him. I personally think he's pretty pissed off that Joe didn't anoint him as the candidate over Kamala. I always thought it was going to be him. I thought he would have been a better choice for Democrats because though he also talks in a circle, he is better at the circle than Kamala is. They do something very similar, but his is more articulate and it's more charismatic than hers, more believable maybe. But he was really out there for Joe. And I think he's personally pretty pissed that he was passed over. I think he's waiting maybe now for 2028, which is why he's doing these podcasts and making these videos of himself walking around homeless encampments or standing by a part of a border wall. I mean, he does it often. He loves a video of himself out there. But I'm wondering if you think he's sitting back and plotting to take out Kamala.
I don't think that Newsom especially, but in general, sort of politicians from California understand that they're kind of a laughing stock throughout the rest of the nation. You know, California is a cautionary tale, like don't let your state end up like California, you know? And then the people who run California think, well, I'm running California, so surely I'm going to be embraced on the national level. But they don't really understand that they're considered punchlines to the rest of the nation. Although Kamala's from California, and this will be an interesting litmus test, because if our nation votes Kamala Harris in, who's very progressive, San Francisco, California, then it will be a indicator that we've sort of jumped the shark and we're kind of lost in that we would embrace California's values on a national level.
I think every bad idea starts in California. Mass mail-in voting is one of them. The first state in the nation to lock down from COVID was California. Really everything bad starts in California and works its way. All the extreme climate change policies, the electric vehicle mandates, all of that starts there and then it soon trickles out into the rest of the country. Have you made your choice yet for November? Do you know who you're going for? I know that you're kind of an RFK Jr. guy, but would you consider voting for Donald Trump or have you not made up your mind yet?
Yeah, I like RFK Jr. He's been on my podcast a few times. I did a benefit comedy show with him in Los Angeles. Cheryl, his wife, I mean, they're really decent, smart people. And I think would be sort of the antithesis of a Gavin Newsom or Kamala Harris. I know Trump as well. I like his policies. And, you know, for me, I would just be a sort of never Harris or a never Biden, you know, or Walls. I think their policies are really destructive. And so many people do this thing where they go, well, I'd like to have a beer with that guy. Well, you're never going to have a beer with Barack Obama. So let's focus on his bad policies. And you're never going to have a beer with Donald Trump because you don't like him. But let's focus on his policies, which is a kind of a big problem. You know, for me, Joe Biden, and I'll circle back to answering your question, but I was thinking about Joe Biden. Remember, he used to like to say all the time, I'm Joe Biden, Jill Biden's husband. And everyone would go, oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. I like that. Yeah, but his policies sucked and were dangerous and are causing wars. So like, there's this weird thing that the left does where they come up with this, like, first off, you're Jill Biden's husband. I don't even know what that means. You're the president of the United States. How about some policy? It turned out to be truer than we thought. Maybe Jill was the one who was pulling the strings, but I'm basically, whoever the left is providing, that's a hard no from me. And, I like Kennedy personally a lot, and I like a lot of his policies as well. Trump obviously is more viable, so you could sort of go, well, you don't want to waste your vote for Kennedy. Might as well just vote for Trump because he's got to beat Kamala. So it's probably Trump, but I haven't locked it in yet.
He's voting for Trump. If he's anti-Kamala, if he's anti-Democrat, there's no way that you throw your vote away and risk Kamala getting in there, right? So he's voting for Trump. I don't know why he hesitates to say it. It's not like there's some new information that's going to come out or a better candidate on either side. It's a vote for Trump. Just say it, dude.
Do you like JD Vance? Do you think that that was the right choice? I mean, he's been reeling it back in the last week or so, but last week and the week before that, some of the comments about people without children, I don't think it helped the Trump effort. And then, of course, the childless cat ladies thing kind of went viral. Do you think he was the right choice, and do you like him on that ticket?
Yeah, I like JD Vance. I like pragmatism. He seems very pragmatic. I mean, I knew him. I shouldn't say I'm not friends with him or whatever, but I saw the movie. I think I interviewed him back in the day. And I like him. I think he's pragmatic, and I like him for that reason. I'm not interested in, comments about cat ladies and especially when the left gets hold of that stuff and just kind of goes bananas with it. Trump said he was going to be a dictator day one. I mean, they're really embarrassing themselves because they're willfully misinterpreting things and then running with it, which is, it's one thing when a politician does it, but it's another thing when CNN, ivermectin's horse paste, like you guys are a news agency and you're willfully misinterpreting things and then spitting it out on your own crap network or LA Times, New York Times. It is a bizarre time. And I know I sound obsessed that as a news agency, you understand what Trump said when he said good people on both sides, when he said, going to be a dictator day one. All the things he said, you understand it. There's film of it, and you choose to misinterpret it. That's a weird space to be in if, in fact, you do news, for a living. JD seems very pragmatic, and that's all I care about. I don't care about feelings. I don't care about treated with dignity. I don't care about a seat at the table. I don't care about no person is illegal. I don't care about any of the crap everyone's been talking about for the last 10 years. All I want is policy and pragmatism.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would be the ideal situation. How much more we're going to get of that, I'm not sure. Adam, if I had to ask you to make a prediction of what's going to happen in November, how do you think this is going to shake out as it stands today? Do you think we have a real possibility of a President Kamala?
Well, what I've kind of learned, I think, is that the Democrats have this thing where it's just unthinkable and unacceptable for Trump to be president. It's just unthinkable. The Republicans are like, well, we'd like one of our guys to win, so let's vote and see how the votes came out. But if we lose, then we lose. And people would go, oh, but Trump didn't accept it. Yes, Trump didn't for many reasons, but the Republicans have a little bit of a posture where they go like, okay, you could win some elections and you can lose some elections. The Democrats seem to be like, we can't lose. And if we are going to lose, we're not going to lose and we'll figure something out. So I don't know if there's going to be another pandemic. I don't know if there's going to be, tactical nukes going off. Like, I don't know, but they won't just sit back and go, let the people vote. We'll see who wins after we count the votes. I can't see them accepting that. So something is going to happen. And I don't know what that something is. And I think...
Well, I have an idea of what they might do, but don't take it from me. Take it from Congressman Jamie Raskin.
What can be put into the Constitution can slip away from you very quickly. And the greatest example going on right now before our very eyes is Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which they're just disappearing with a magic wand, as if it doesn't exist, even though it could not be clearer what it's stating. And so, they want to kick it to Congress. So it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025, to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified. And then we need bodyguards for everybody in Civil War conditions, all because the 9 justices, not all of them, but these justices who have not many cases to look at every year, not that much work to do, a huge staff, great protection, simply do not want to do their job and interpret what the great 14th Amendment means. And I'm glad that Sherilyn's creating her new center so we can bring that.
And here, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment disqualifies those who have already held a public office from holding any office if they participate in an insurrection or rebellion against the United States. Well, Mr. Raskin, the FBI, or whoever it was, has already said that January 6th was not an insurrection. Okay? So unless you're going to become a dictator and insert some kind of policy, which I wouldn't put it past the Democratic Party at this point, they just installed Kamala without any popular vote at all. Not one person voted for her. They just gave her the delegates. And then at the same time, her new vice president running mate has admitted that he is a socialist. So, I mean, it's on camera. So, I mean, I guess I wouldn't put it past them to do that. But like I said, they've already ruled that January 6th was not an insurrection, okay? There's no charges against Trump for insurrection.
So my answer would be Trump will get more votes than Kamala Harris. And or I'll put it this way, Trump will win the Electoral College over Kamala Harris. Does that mean he is going to be the president? I don't know, because I just know that it is unacceptable to them. And they got many ways to figure this out. I don't know if they arrest him, if there's another sniper, like if there's another COVID outbreak, like they're just not going to accept a vote and an outcome. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, Democrats definitely love to win, and they will win at all costs. They really don't care what they have to do to win. They will do whatever that is. They have no shame in their game. They will swap out their candidate 100 days before a general election if they have to, if they feel like they're losing. I mean, it's really remarkable what they're able to get done. And, you know, we know COVID 2020, they convinced the entire nation that mass mail-in voting was the way to go, but in-person looting was okay. So they will do whatever they have to do, and people will buy it, which I'm envious of as a Republican, because we just can't do it. We just can't sell our ideas like the Democrats can sell their ideas, and it's amazing what they can do. But I always appreciate your take on everything, certainly needed right now, and your voice is out there on a platform that brings in more people than just those that listen to conservative media. So, Adam, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Well, all right. That was great. Definitely worth our time to watch, and it was fun watching Adam Carolla and Tomi Lahren make fun of the Democrats, get a little dig in at Biden and Kamala and even Gavin Newsom, who, in my opinion, is probably going to be the front runner in that 2028 election. So it's never too soon to go ahead and start ruining his reputation, in my opinion. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel before you go. Share this video if you thought it's worth sharing. And one last thing, I will be live Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time with Atlas Thugged for our new Jar Openers podcast. It's episode 2, and I really hope to see you guys there and look forward to interacting with everybody and answering some questions and, doing all that good stuff. And so anyways, I appreciate you spending some time with me, and I'll see you guys in the next video.